there, I'm Marissa Mitchell. Thanks for joining me on Motivation with Marissa. Millions across the world know the music and the legacy of the late, great Marvin Gaye. But do you know the Washington, D.C. native's brother, Antwaun Gay? Well, in his memoir, he details being related to the icon, having never met him. Antwaun, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, well, thank you
so
for
much.
sharing your story. I have the book. I've read it twice.
Awesome.
Yeah, it really is
Awesome.
good. And I know we've spoken before on
Yes.
Fox 5, but one question I didn't get to,
Okay.
the title.
Okay.
You say, when a man exhales, what does that mean to you?
To me, it represented everything that was bottled up. And since you've read it, everything from the trauma that happened to me as a young person from different aspects, from different angles, and then the different things that I went through as an adult, from teenager into adulthood, and finding time to finally lay those things down and to be able to breathe, and touching on things in which a lot of times men hold things inside, men and women, but coming from a man's perspective, things that sometimes we just bottle up, and at the end I was able to exhale finally.
Yeah. Men are not often allowed the space to be vulnerable in the same way that women are.
Yes.
So let's go back in your story. I know you begin with April 2nd, 1984.
Yes.
Take me to that day.
Well, it was a day in which I was approached and was told that your brother was killed, and that your father did it. And I had just met him, like, again, approximately about 6 months before.
Your father, Marvin Gaye's father.
Marvin Gaye Sr., yes. And so hearing this information, I didn't even know how to receive it, because all I know is, like, I just met father, and the brother that I always wanted to meet is now I'm hearing is taken away. And so the very next day, I didn't go to school, and I remember having a the little radio, the portable radio, and listening to I don't think it was Melvin Lindsay, but listening to the WHUR, and the people were crying. And I'm taking all of this in, and just like hearing people cry, people angry at my father, and I'm like, I don't understand. I just didn't understand, but was hurt. And my mother was away from me at the time, and which made it even harder to process everything that was going on.
You had all of those feelings and didn't know what to do with them. So you met your father. You did get an opportunity to do that, and that generated so much hope, right?
Yes.
For Marvin and more. Take me back to that first encounter.
Oh, wow. Well, with everything that was going on, I started changing. Just dealing with some anger and some things going on at home. And my aunt said, you need to go meet your father. And so she brought me to D.C. I believe it was 1600 Varnum Street. And there he was, the man that I had seen in the Avenue magazine with the dark shades and the vest. And I'm like, that's him. And when I approached him, he held me, and tears just started flowing down out of his eyes. And I never had a man hold me like that. I'm like, this is my father. He's holding me like something valuable that was lost and now is found. And I just took it in, and tears were just streaming down his eyes. And that was one of the most special moments in my life. That was affirmation. My father, this is my father, and he loves me.
How old were you?
I was 13 at the time, And he gave me my first $100 bill. I had never seen a $100 bill before in my life. And so I didn't know all the things that was surrounding my father. I just knew that experience. And all I know is that I wanted to see him again. I couldn't wait to go to California and meet Marvin and my siblings that I heard that was out there. And then life took a different change.
You didn't harbor any anger? I mean, people deal with that who are, I guess, born outside, right, of the family.
Yes.
None of that at 13 when you met your father for the first time.
None of it. I didn't. I think I was always, from the different things I was dealing with in my life, looking for affirmation. And my stepfather, who was a kind man, hardworking man, and he took care of his family, I really didn't get that from him. And being someone that was bullied, this was like, oh, this is like a new start.
It's like the golden ticket.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So it was no anger. It was like, I want to meet my family. I want to spend more time with my dad and meet my brother, and yeah.
And how long did that happen before Marvin, I guess, Jr.'s passing? When you met your father versus that day?
Approximately 6 months.
Wow.
So it wasn't long. That's why it really messed me up, because it seemed like it was just yesterday I was with him, and it's like, okay, I'm just waiting for the time to see him again, and then this happens in April, and yeah.
So when you're listening to the radio and people are talking about your brother's music and maybe run-ins they've had with them too, did you feel like in a way that was your first true introduction?
Yes. Other than seeing him during the All-Star Weekend when he sung the Star Spangled Banner, that was my first time seeing him like move like live ever. And I'm watching him, because during that time period, again, it wasn't too many TV channels. So everyone's watching the All-Star game probably on CBS or whatever.
Everybody was watching the same thing, yeah.
And like, Mom says, that's your brother. And and of course, one of the greatest renditions of seeing it, and I'm watching him, I'm like glued, just listening, looking at his face, and I'm like, he's wearing shades, and like, just taking all that in. And so yeah, that was my first interaction as far as just seeing him through the TV. But yes, through the radio, hearing people talk about how much he meant to them. Real, like, it blew me away. Just people crying, just so many people that was crying, and just, I can't believe it. And so in a way I felt, taking it in, but I felt lonely too, because like you have experience with, I hadn't even listened to a full album of his at this time.
Was it difficult for you in the months and years after to listen to the music? Knowing what you knew and what you didn't know?
It was such a family secret on both ends of the family. Like I said, I didn't know the other family. Only other than listening to him on The Quiet Storm, and when I went to live with my grandma, that was the only time I kind of heard his music. I didn't open an album. The first time I even listened to a complete album, I was in my 40s. That's how much I suppressed. That's how much I suppressed.
And what did it do to you, even then, Antwaun, to hear his music emotionally?
When I was going through, which I talk about my journey in the book, that's when I started. I was like, who am I? Why am I going through the things that I'm going through, and all these struggles? And that's when in my car, I would play his music, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I didn't even realize how much of a musical genius he was. And so, outside of just listening to what's going on, all the different voice ranges he had and everything, and I'm just like taking it in, but yet I heard myself. I heard his pain, I heard his joys, and I'm like, I can identify. That's how I would say that. And so those things were interesting, but that was my new way of just learning him and trying to figure out what was going on with me, because I felt like if anyone could understand the struggles I was going through, I thought he would. And my dad had already passed, so.
There's a part in your book where you talk about listening to him sing, and you can hear the gospel, you can hear the faith in his voice.
Yes.
And your faith has grown tremendously over the years because of what you've experienced. Take me through some of those key moments in your life where all felt lost, but you were able to regain your strength.
Man, one example, I'm gonna go back when I was, I guess about 11, 12. I think the first time I heard him on the radio, still was before I met my father, and was hearing what's going on. I didn't know it was Marvin until I think Melvin Lindsay said, Marvin Gaye. I'm like, oh, that's my brother. But when I heard it, it sounded like a gospel song. All I know that whoever's singing this song is touching me deeply. And it sounds like a gospel song. And afterwards, he said, it's Marvin. But his music, but gospel music, the Lord carried me through so many tough times and moments. And yeah, it was, I could be in different places and I would start thinking about missing Father. Is he missing me? Because again, I never saw him again after that one time. And then I would just shut it out. But through prayer, through the Word of God, being in the church is what carried me through so many tough moments. Whenever I would start thinking about Marvin and my father, that would tend to bring sadness. But yeah, it was nothing but the Lord. Nothing but the Lord.
There's one section in the book, and it brought me to tears, and this is such a great memoir. I mean, really, you really make us feel everything that you experienced, but you talk about when you were playing basketball and the knee injury, when you noticed it for the first time. And you're dealing with Marvin's death, you're dealing with not feeling a part of the family, and you have a moment where you just go, God, why me?
Yes. Why
me? It seemed as if God didn't care. That's what you wrote.
That's what I felt. I'm like, okay, met Father, want to meet my family. Tragedy happens, okay. But I'm going to be the star basketball player. I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be a battle dancer. And my family's going to love me. They're going to receive me. And the world's going to know, oh, yeah, he has a brother. And again, looking for affirmation. And so one of my best basketball games I was having, I tore my ACL earlier, but then came down and messed my knee up. And it was like my dreams were shattered again. And I'm like, yeah, God, why? Why is this happening to me? How come every time I'm having, seem like I'm getting closer to a dream that I want, something happens. And yeah, I felt like almost God was angry with me. And but again, I was suppressed. I wouldn't dare be mad at God. That was something in my heart. Like but I was angry and I was hurt. And I'm like, why is these things happening to me? So again, that would be something else that I would suppress and move on. And I think I found solace in the club. Yeah. Dancing, so that was my other passion. And so again, affirmation from the guys, affirmation from the girls. And I'm like, okay, I walk into the club and the DJ would say my name, and I'm like, okay, this is what I think Marvin would experience. Maybe he would be proud of me. And again, that dichotomy of spirit and flesh, of okay, I know this doesn't fulfill, but yet it feels good. That admiration getting from other people. So. And
also being in and out of relationships, situationships, dealing with the temptation that you went through as well for several years. What was it, along with your faith, that really changed the course for you, not just in your personal life, but allow you to put your connection to Marvin in perspective? In a perspective that benefited you emotionally and spiritually.
When I realized that God loved me and I was uniquely made, and that God had a purpose for me. It wasn't trying to be like my brother. It wasn't necessarily being a star basketball player or a star, but that he uniquely created me for a purpose that was found in Jesus, that's found in Christ. And from that, it's going to help and bless many people. And that's what helped me to realize that what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? And so God, through the Word and through through His direction, He was opening my eyes to see how many people who wander into stardom, they're still not happy. They're still going through pain. They're still dealing with hurts. And so maybe God was protecting me from the very thing that I wanted. And that's when I realized, okay, yeah, this is seek after Him, walk in your purpose, and in that, don't seek to be great, not famous.
Wow.
Seek to be great, not famous. And if you become famous on the way, then so be it. And so that's where I'm, in my different jobs that I had, just helping, working with youth, working with at-risk adults.
Being a deputy sheriff,
Yes.
working with inmates, you
Yes.
learn from them as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my joy, that's where my joy was coming. That was better than any dunk that I ever did, any game-winning shot, any battle, any winning anything in the dancing cipher. It was ministering to other people. It was seeing people make it through another day. It was, that was fulfilling. I'm like, this is what God has called me to do.
You know, sometimes when I'm interviewing people, and I've spoken to thousands of people over the years now, the full range of the human condition, and I have moments in the conversations where I go, that's why I went through that thing, so that I could connect with this person
Yes.
on that level. You use the word misfit in your book.
Yes.
And I'm listening to you now, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was meant for him to feel isolated,
Yes.
betrayed, hidden, so that he could connect with people and could connect with people who were in similar situations.
Yes.
It was your superpower.
Yes. God knew many things that we go through, and we don't understand why.
Yeah.
Later on, as we stick the course, we realize when we run into somebody that's hurting, we run into someone who has the same experience, and we're able to comfort them the way God comforted us and helped us to get over. And it's interesting that you say that my sister, my oldest sister who passed, I only talked to her a couple of times on the phone, and she said, you know what? You just might be the Joseph of the family. And when I thought about it, Joseph was the youngest son.
Yeah.
They had the same father, and wasn't really received too well. But everything Joseph went through, he didn't, when he was, being, put away by his brothers and then sold into captivity, wondering, why is this happening to me? This dream that God gave me, this doesn't look like it's happening. And then he goes all the way to the palace. And what God, he told his brothers when he saw him, he said, what you meant for evil, God meant for good, to be a blessing to my family. So his heart had to be right. And that's what God had prepared me before I even released the book, was regardless if I'm received or not, you're here for the good of your family and for those who will come in contact with you. And so, everything that you went through is to be able to, I didn't know I was going to be an author, was to be able to write in a book. And even though there were some things I believe that God didn't want me to go through, my stubbornness, my hard-headedness, but he still uses it to benefit and to minister to other people.
Well, finally, you now, of course, help youth all over throughout our area in the DMV and beyond. But you're also a proud husband, a father, or a grandfather.
Yes, yes.
And I want to end with this. For people who were born outside of the family, I'm using air quotes for that, and don't feel like they're a part of anything and they're watching this, what's your message to them?
My message to them is that you are valuable. Your life is precious. And before your mom knew your dad, he knew you were coming into the earth. So don't worry about if you're not even possibly not proud of your mom or proud of your dad. You could be a very bad situation that you were brought into this world in, but you're special, you're precious, and your life is necessary, and that you're loved. And so there's no one that has your eye print. There's no one that has your voice print. There's no one that has your unique capabilities. It's only you. And I need, you need, we need what that person has. And so don't give up on yourself no matter what you've gone through, whether it's good or bad. Your life is valuable, and it's for others.
You got that message even being related to one of the most famous people in the planet. And I'm sure people throughout the years, you're Marvin Gaye's, you get all of that all the time too, and you had to work through the opinions of others.
Yes.
And I know that had to have been tough as well.
It has been, but and like I said, I was ministering to some people not too long ago, and I had to remind them, whenever I only had one picture of my father, maybe within the last 2 years, most of the pictures I ever see of my father is him in handcuffs. And I explain that to people whose sons are locked up. And so I'm like, I know what that's like to maybe your son's name was in a newspaper. Maybe it was, in the news or whatever, and you feeling that shame. You carry that last name, but I know what that feels like. To where you see more pictures of your father in handcuffs or in a courtroom than smiling or holding you. Again, that's why the one picture that I have in the book of my father, I don't think there's any other picture anywhere of that.
Yeah, it's in the middle here. I did run across it.
And that's why I wanted to show a picture of him that was not in handcuffs.
Yeah, because that's the only one I certainly have seen. So, Antwaun, thank you. Since this is Motivation with Marissa and a very special one, what's motivating you these days?
What's motivating me these days is to have the opportunity to hopefully go and speak, hopefully around the country, hopefully around the world, to uplift, encourage many people, and hopefully one day to see that book on the screen one day.
I can see it. I actually see another book. I get to the end, I'm like, I want to know more. Now
it's coming.
Updated, and it's coming.
It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming.
Wow.
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
thank you for sharing your story. We appreciate you, and I think I'll have you back to motivate us some more.
I would love to be back. Thank you so much.